Welcome back to Bullet Catcher Gaming. This is, of course, Ghost Recon Breakpoint, and I'm once again joined by Sandy, aka Sandylands, for the second part of the new game survey results, where we will go through questions 31 to 69. We will spend a little bit of time on some of the more in-depth ones and then move on through some of the other ones. Hopefully you will find this interesting. Thank you, Sandy, for joining me. We are going to get straight into it. And big thank you, obviously, for Sandy for creating the survey and for all of you for filling it out. So if you are new to the channel and you've only just discovered this video, there is a part 1 out there. So check that one out for questions 1 to 30. That one's already available. So question 31 was, would you like to see specific faction missions in-game that affects the game world, so including secondary storylines with their own rewards? Yes was 90%. Second was no preference, 7%. No was 3%. Kind of speaks for itself in a way. It kind of makes sense that, you know, a secondary storyline, you don't want just one linear kind of storyline. It's nice to have a secondary one. We talked about this in the first part, where if you could use terrorism, for example, or defeating a terrorist group, but also interlink other things in the background, whether it be a cartel, whatever it is, organized crime, I don't know, whatever it is, into that. So that would make perfect sense to me. So question 32, which would you prefer in-game as a safe location to rest? Now, number 1 was a mixture of all three. So obviously we'll go through what those three are. That was 73%. So second place was FOBs, patrol bases 12%, safe houses 10%, bivouacs 3%, no preference 2%. So basically people want all three of those: FOBs, patrol bases, safe houses, bivouacs. I'm going to be honest with you, I agree with that. It would be nice to have a mixture of all of those as opposed to just one. I like the bivouacs in Breakpoint, but there are things about them that bug me.
I always thought with the bivouacs in Breakpoint, yeah, it's great having some, but there's so many empty, like outcast and homestead locations that could have just as easily been used to do the same thing. Some of the old churches that you do the faction missions would have made perfect locations.
Agree. Wouldn't it be nice to just be able to choose an empty building and you pick where you can have, say, 50 spawn points and you choose where they go? That would be interesting, you know, and give you 500 locations and you can put them wherever you want.
Things that can be overrun as well. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So if you're using the same one all the time, you know, the AI will start clicking onto that.
Yeah, agree. So question 33, would you like to have CIA operators running safe houses and ground branch teams providing QRF for your team? Yes, 83%. No preference, 12. No, 4%. I'm confused, actually, because that doesn't add up to 100%, does it? No. No, we've lost 1%. There's a 1% somewhere that's not there.
I'll have to look into that.
Yeah.
It might be that it was like 83.5 and I've just rounded it up.
Yeah, fair play. Okay. I was just thinking, you know, showing off my maths skills there. To be fair, I agree with that. So far, I would say that the community, it's pretty obvious what the community want, because most of the time we certainly, and everyone we know is in agreement with the highest percentage answers. So it really is giving you a good indication of what the community is after in this type of game. I really like that idea, having QRF, things like that. I'd love to see that in the game.
It's much more grounded, you know. Even, you know, there's, I don't see many operations where you got to have just four guys in a country on their own they support. You know, there's always got to be, especially for the Americans, there's always got to be CIA assets. Ground branch are got to be there if you need them. You know, it would make it feel more authentic to me.
Agree. So question 34, should the Ghosts have a main operations based MOB on the map? It would be a fortified kind of main location, which would include operations room, armory, quartermaster's store, med bay, feeding area, vehicle garage, helipad, stuff like that. Yes was 78%. No was 11%. No preference was 10%. So once again, huge amount of people saying yes, they would like this. I would like this. Depends on the story and things like that, but I do think it could
Yeah.
work if done right. And I wouldn't be against it. Definitely not. I don't know about
Yeah,
you.
I agree.
Yeah.
And again, if you had something similar to Air One but better, no a cave, but an actual.
Yeah. Agreed.
If you had something that looked like Mob Jaguar back for Wildlands, but that was your friendly base. You had a helipad, you had a feeding area, stuff like that, where you could go on. You could go to the option and get all your missions for there.
Where I can get in my A10 tank buster, which will hopefully go into the next game. Come on, give us a
Yeah,
good plane. The
Hawks.
planes in the game, even in Wildlands, were pants.
Yeah,
We want something better.
Hawks is your backup team.
Hell yeah.
Area support.
Let's do it. So question 35, helicopters piloting, which would you prefer? So the number one answer was 71%, which was both. So both the answers were number two, a dedicated AI pilot for infill, exfil, Casevac on request, 19%. Manually, third was manually piloted by player only, 7%, and no preference was 2. So basically, answer number 2 and 3 is what people want, both of those, and I agree. You should be able to manually pilot. I think this is what people were saying, and also be able to choose for AI piloting for those things. You should be able to do both. That would
Yeah,
make the perfect sense. And it would be great for you to be able to get in a helicopter and not have to worry about flying it. You could sort your weapons out on the way, whatever it was you're going to do. Other games do it. There's no reason why this one can't do it. So, helicopters, question 36. Controls, which would you rather have? Number one, it was the option for either, came out at 49%, which makes sense. Classic Wildlands controls was second, 21%. Third was breakpoint controls, 17%. No preference was 13%. Quite surprised by that, but maybe people haven't played both, so who knows.
yeah,
For me, this is a really easy one. Give us both.
yeah.
More
As
is
you said
always better.
before, if you're getting an option for more, yeah, you always take more.
Absolutely. Always take more. Question 37. Another helicopters. Fast roping. Would you like the ability to fast rope? We all know the answer to this. Yes, 93%. No preference, 6%. And no, 1%. This is something that people have been asking for a long, long time.
Yeah,
This to me is one of now the biggest, I think, requested features in the game that I honestly believe this could have been implemented into Breakpoint in an update. Personally, like I know people say about rappelling up cliffs. I think that would have been harder for them to implement. This, for me, no. This
yeah,
was an easier implementation. And for me, if this is not in the next game, I think people would be annoyed because they've been
yeah.
asking for it for a long time.
Do you know the worst thing is as well, though, that you see this exact same mechanic actually happening in the division.
You do,
You know
yeah.
what I mean? And that is where a lot of people get annoyed because they look at things like the division and go, "Well, if the division can have it, why can we not have it?"
Yeah, I see that. I get that. And it should be in there if it's for the type of game that it is, it should definitely be in there.
Exactly.
So, question 38. Should all military helicopters in game have the ability to fire chaff if the missile lock is detected? Yes, player initiated, 69%. Yes, automatic response, 18%. No preference, 11%. And no, 2%. I don't think this needs a lot of discussing. I think it's very obvious. I think it should be the player, personally, and not
I
automatic.
agree.
And I think that makes the most amount of sense. You should be able to do it when you feel the right time to do it. Simple as that.
Yeah.
So, question 39, weapon-mounted ground vehicles, what would you prefer them to be armed with? So, first was option to choose individually. That was obvious that would win 68%. Second, 50 cal Browning HMG 13, no preference 13, that's surprising. Minigun 3, the Dushka 12.7 millimeter 2%, and the Mark 19 grenade launcher 1%. I can kind of see why people wouldn't want that one, but option to choose individually would make sense. There's no reason why they couldn't add that as a feature that you could go and select what was on them.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me all day long. So, question 40, should all vehicles fitted with weapons have a limited ammo capacity? Yes, 59, no 25, no preference 16. What do you make of that?
It's fairly split. And what I should have said there was, there should have been the ability to toggle that on and off, almost like an immersive switch. So for the guys that didn't want it, yeah, you can have unlimited ammo with your 50 cal on the back of your Humvee. Great. But for the guys who want to play a bit more tactical, maybe having only 300-400 rounds when you steal a vehicle for them, you can just blitz the rest of the base and run that thing for 30 minutes and never run out of ammo.
Yeah, I agree. That makes sense. Toggle on and off all day long. So, question 41, should all vehicles in the game have a fuel gauge with the possibility of running out of fuel? Yes, 59, no 27, no preference 14. Once again, I think this is very obvious. Just put in a switch. You can either have a fuel gauge on or a fuel gauge off, and you decide. I think that's the easiest way. So, yes, just make sure the option's in there, and also the option to turn it off. Simple as that. Question 42, should AI teammates have the ability to drive? We kind of covered a bit of this as such. Yes, 90%, no preference 6, no 4%. That's something that, these type of questions are the ones that I really would like Ubisoft to pay attention to. And we will be sending these results to Ubisoft, by the way, 100%. The same as the first video and this one, they will be getting them. So hopefully they are going to pay attention, we hope. This is just an absolute no-brainer. They have to be able to drive for the same reason, like I said earlier. They've got to be able to drive. It's so important. It's got to be done. Other games can do it. This needs to do it too. So 43, should we have the ability to give individual commands to AI teammates as well as team commands? This one's obvious. Yes, 91%, no preference 7, and the last is 2%. So to me, it's you don't want what we've got now, and I think people are very clearly saying last. No, they do not want the options that we've already had. They want these options, not the old ones.
That moment where they said we're giving you an AI teammate update, and then said we don't want you to micromanage your teammates, when the community was like, but that's the one thing we actually want.
We want to micromanage our teammates, and you come out and make a big deal out of the fact that you won't get to thinking that's what they wanted. No one wanted that. Literally, as this shows, no one wanted it. We want to micromanage our teammates because that's the only way people might want to use teammates. A lot of people, I don't use AI teammates. I don't bother. I never use them.
If you could take Vasily and give him an individual command to go up and give you top cover with sniper rifle, or send Fury to go and take out a specific guard, with using stealth, using CQC, people would have been a lot more happy.
Absolutely. That makes perfect sense. We've discussed this in previous videos. It just makes so much sense. Question 44, should AI teammates have a similar injury system to your character? For me, this is just an obvious answer, again, that what the community will want. Yes, 83%, no preference 10, no 7%. To me, this doesn't even need a discussion. Yes, of course they should, because otherwise it's just silly. It doesn't work. The AI teammates need a complete overhaul from the ground up. Question 45. Injured teammates. Would you prefer to, 1, have both options randomly generated? So the options were 2, drag teammates. Teammates can still fire. 3, carry teammates. Teammates cannot fire. Last, no preference. I think this is once again a mixture. I think it should be yes, they can fire when they're being carried, but perhaps it's how they're being carried. If they are being dragged, for example, maybe they can fire behind you. If they're being carried on the shoulder, perhaps they can't fire so well, or whatever.
One of the things I like but annoyed me at the same time was there's a great bit in one of the video sequences where you see Walker dragging Nomad, and Nomad's still able to fire at the same time. And I thought, that to me seems much more realistic what I'd expect to see in the middle of a firefight.
100%. We've seen it, and I've read about it in books. We've seen it in military films and things like that. We know that people do it. We've heard special operators say that they've been in situations where this happens. So things like that absolutely needs to be in there. The same as this next question. Once again, the community leading the way with the right answers. Would you like to have the ability to have your team stack on doors? This is question 46. Yes, 91, no preference. 8, no, 1%. That gives you a huge indication of the type of gameplay, the type of game that people are wanting from Ghost Recon. That answer right there.
Yeah.
People want to use real world tactics in this game and not just randomly just walk through a door. And yes, you can be tactical, but you can't be properly tactical, can you? Because you can't stack on doors. Extremely frustrating that option is not there. Look how well it was done in games like Rainbow Six Vegas. It was done really well. Just give us something like that and it would work brilliantly.
Exactly.
It could even switch to like a first person mode almost at the door, whatever it is. They can figure out a way for it to work.
Yeah. Not just automatically opening doors.
Exactly.
Because that just takes the fun away.
It does. Yes, it's frustrating. So 47, would you like to be able to give them different breach options? So silent entry, explosive entry, flash clear, frag and clear, etc. Once again, very obvious. Yes was 95%, no preference 4, and no was 1%. Another one that I hope Ubisoft take, really do listen to, because this is just an absolute no-brainer that we want these options.
I just hope they listen to the 95% and know the 1%.
I hope so too, because the teammates thing that you were talking about a minute ago did feel like they listened to the 1 and not the 95.
Yeah.
So question 48, how many AI teammates would you prefer? Maximum of 3, 4-man team, 41%. Maximum of 5, 6-man team, 21%. Maximum of 11, 12-man team, 14%. Maximum of 7, 8-man team, 14%. No preference was 9%, and none was 1%. Now, this one surprised me a bit. Now, there were quite a few options to choose from here, but the fact that people want a 4-man team, yet all I ever hear is people saying they want 6 or 8. Now, personally, I always think in games like this, if you give people the option, then we can decide. So if you make it 8 players, you can play all day long with just your 4-man team.
Yeah. But that's the mistake I made on this question, was no specifying that just because I've said an 8-man team doesn't mean you have to hit 8 people all the time. Just like Breakpoint, you can turn them off when you didn't need them. So if you want to play with 6, you can play with 6. If you want to play with 3, you can play with 3. That's the one thing I should have specified.
I suppose it is a difficult question for people, because there are people out there, and there's nothing wrong with this. There's a lot of people that don't necessarily play with friends on this game, and they just play the game with their AI teammates on their own. There's nothing wrong with that at all, because it's up to you how you play. For those people that do play like that, I think this is a harder question for them, because would you want to be running along with 11 AI teammates if it was a 12-man team? I mean, it would just seem ridiculous, wouldn't it?
It would in Breakpoint, but I think if you were playing a new game where the enemies were actually, thought tactically and tried to outsmart you, I think it would be a very different challenge.
Absolutely, I agree. Personally, I would like to see a six-man team. That I think six is ideal, but I would personally say give us eight. Eight
Yeah.
should be fine, and then we can decide how many we want to play. But I'd go for eight if it was me.
I mean, even just imagine the Milsim guys having that 8-man team when you were playing, having an 8-man team playing Breakpoint or Wildlands. I think people would be over the moon with that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, question 49, parachuting in game, which would you prefer? So, number one was both options, 57%. Those options were two, traditional customizable parachute with dedicated parachute backpack cosmetic, 36%. No preference was 5. Wingsuit was 2. I didn't think wingsuit would fall as low as that as a single pick. But I suppose a lot of people said give us both, and I would say give us both. Then if you don't want to use the wingsuit, then you don't ever have to use it.
Exactly.
But once again, like we said, give us more options rather than less. Question 50. We know where this one's headed. Would you like the ability to climb up and abseil down from cliff faces? Absolutely, we want this because everyone's been asking for it for ages. So yes, 91%. No preference, 6, and no was 3. And this is a question for me, which is all about a new game. I mean, all of these questions are about a new game, but this is an important one because I'm not sure they could do it on Breakpoint right now because I think it would take a lot of work. But I do think it can be done in a new game, and I think people desperately want to see this happen. I mean, even if they said you can't do it everywhere, but you can only do it on certain places, but they made sure there were plenty of them, that would be better than nothing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Definitely. Okay, so we are on to question 51. Base jumping from building structures. Would you rather? One, it was option to do either, came out 169%. From the other options, 2 was ability to abseil down buildings, 20. No preference, 6, and keep the last current breakpoint mechanics, which was 5. Once again, goes back to what we've been saying.
Yeah.
Let's be able to do all of it as opposed to picking certain things.
I just think it seems crazy sometimes that if you're only in a 2 or 3 story building, if you jump off, the only way to jump off is to parachute, like to base jump a 3-story building. That should be something that you should easily be able to abseil in without any drama.
Yeah, I agree, 100%. Question 52. Would you like to see a crossover events with other characters from the Tom Clancy universe? 1, only if it adds to the overall main storyline, 49%. Yes, 30%. No, 14. No preference, 7. Well, the 49%, it makes sense to me. And obviously, if you add that to yes and to the overall, that's quite a large percentage of people effectively saying yes. We don't want random. I mean, personally, yes, there's some people out there, I'm sure, that will go, oh, I happen to love the Terminators in Breakpoint. And if you do, awesome. Occasionally, I turn them on for an hour's worth of fun, but I'm talking about once every 6 months here, just for a bit of fun. Do I really want them? No, I don't. I would much rather have things that made sense to be in the game. And that fits into an overall kind of main storyline arc, and that doesn't include Terminators or any other kind of film franchise license, unless it's one that feels like it could fit into the world. And even then, why bother? Just write a better story that you can create more side plots to.
To me, that one's more like, in my eyes, when I say other crossovers, I'd like to see other ghost teams, So it's still, you start with a new team, and maybe at some point you work with Walker's team or you work with Nomad's team for a specific mission. Or at a push, maybe some of the military guys for Rainbow Six.
Yeah, because
You
question
know,
53 was actually, sorry, that was my bad, because question 53 was, would you like to see any non-Tom Clancy crossovers?
yeah,
So the other question, which I was talking about the Terminators in, which to be fair, Terminators are now part of the Tom Clancy universe effectively, because they put them in the game,
yeah,
even though they weren't wanted. But this was the non-Tom Clancy, so this actually being film things and stuff like that.
yeah.
And that was being believable 43%, no 29%, yes 19%, no preference 9%. So a lot more people saying no on that one. They just don't want it. I still think, like, I'll stick to my guns on that. Write a better story, and then you can write lots of other kind of side missions, things like that, stuff for
Yeah,
DLCs, all that. You don't need film things in there. You don't need that personally. Though I
exactly.
will always stick by that. I did enjoy the Predator in Wildlands. It was fun. They can bring that back if they want, but that's it. But have it and make sure it has nothing to do with the story. And it was just a little add-on.
Yeah.
54 Gunsmith. Would you like to see an upgraded future soldier style gunsmith with up to 10 dedicated weapon save slots, a bit like what Call of Duty has done? So yes, 43%. Breakpoint style gunsmith 20%. No preference 19. Wildlands gunsmith 16%. And last was no 2%. Interesting. This is
I
a.
would have, I would have thought Wildline Gunsmith would have been before Breakpoints.
I thought that too, but maybe the people who filled there was more people who filled this out who are more Breakpoint players than they were Wildlands players. Perhaps you just don't know.
Mm,
I don't mind the gunsmith in Breakpoint. Obviously, it could be massively overhauled and improved. We know
yeah,
that. I kind of understand it. It feels a lot easier to use and quicker than the Wildlands one. But at the same time, I'd I don't know. I'm going to be honest with you. I would prefer something different to all of those options. I would prefer just something where you can take a base gun like an M4, and they just give you everything you need to make it however you want.
you mean
Uh,
like the way it's done on Brownell's website?
Effectively, yes, something like that. I would like to see that, and none of these options, and just basically overhaul the entire thing and
Yeah,
create a new one, as opposed to something we've had before. So, question 55: should things like cry clothing equipment be available in game to all players at launch? Obvious one, yes, 86%. No preference, 12. No, 2%. If you want to play tactically, you want real life tactical gear. So
yeah.
that makes perfect sense. Question 56. Do you agree that the following camo patterns should be available to all players on release, seeing how it is a US Tier 1 team? So US Woodland plus Urban variant, Chocolate Chip, Tricolour, DCU, UCP, UCPD, Multicam, all main variants, Tiger Stripe, all variants, Scorpion W2, Desert Night Camo, Marpat, all variants, AR1, AR2, NSW Type 1. Yes, 88%, no preference, 10, no, 1%. The fact that there's no is 1% again tells you something huge there, but that people are massively interested in having these type of things, and I'm sure other countries featured in the game.
Yeah,
They want to see it. Why would you not if you're playing a tactical shooter? That's what you want to see. People
exactly.
want realism. Anything that adds more realism is always going to do well. And the thing is, they could add things in, and people would, if they added good stuff into the shop, people would buy them. It's one of my biggest
Yeah,
issues. Overall, I would spend more money on Breakpoint, but the stuff that goes into the shop is not always very good. Let's be
yeah, hundred
honest.
percent,
It's
hundred percent.
some of it's naff. Give us better stuff in the shop, and I will happily pour my money into it.
You you give the fans actual real world tactical equipment that's been used by real special operators. People will always buy it. Not so many people are interested in getting a flat cap.
Exactly. There's so much like, silly, weird fisherman jackets and stuff like that, and no one's interested in that stuff. We don't
Exactly.
want it. We don't want it. Question 57. Not including companies already featured in previous games, like big name kit and equipment manufacturers, what ones would you like to see added? Now, there's a big, long list here. It is on screen, so you can see it, obviously, because you can see all the questions up to question 59. So, do you know what? Because there's so many, I'm not going to read them out. But
Yeah.
Warrior Assault Systems came out with 62% of the vote in terms of how many people. Now, you could choose, obviously, more than one here, so it wouldn't add up to 100%. But let's be honest here. Most of nearly all of these were getting pretty decent numbers, especially the Warrior Assault Systems, London Bridge Tactical, First Spear, and Blue Force Gear, all getting 50% of people who voted for those.
Yeah.
So, hopefully, at least this means that Ubisoft will have a look at this and go, maybe these are the companies we should be approaching to get some of their gear in the game. Let's hope so, because clearly people want this stuff in the game. So question 58, building on the current character creation, would you like to be able to change your character's height and build? Yes, 78%, no preference 15, no 7. I'm surprised by that, because for me, I would like to see it. Now, as long as they don't make it so you can make your character like 9 foot tall or something stupid, because keep it realistic, keep it up to, say, they could be up to 6'8" or something.
Yeah.
And you could have them down to whatever, I don't know,
5'4", 5.
Yeah, in and around that kind of thing.
5'4".
Yeah, and it's. I can see, as long as they don't go mad with it, you could just basically you want someone who's either a bit more athletic looking or someone who's a bit more kind of like meathead looking, if you know what I mean. That's no offense to meatheads, you know what I mean, like big and bulkier and stuff.
I mean, the truth with when you see a lot of special operators is that they're not necessarily meatheads. They're not necessarily racing snakes. A lot of them just look average. Some of them have got a wee bit of belly in them. They're guys that you wouldn't expect to be tier 1 operators.
No, and then you do see some pictures of others who are very much, ripped to pieces or whatever. So you should be able to choose. Everyone's different.
Exactly.
So question 59 for female characters, would you like to see more feminine body types, but still with the ability to adjust height? Makes sense, doesn't it, really? Yes. Yeah. Some of the female character the faces in Breakpoint on the females are horrible.
Yeah.
Oh, have you ever... I remember trying to build a Lara Croft for some background footage.
Yeah.
And it just looked like Lara Croft with a man's head on it. It just did not look... It didn't matter what I did, it looked like a man with Lara Croft glasses on. And
a lot of people have said that, the Wildlands, like the female characters in Wildlands, were just, better built.
Exactly. And there's just no need for it. We're not saying that we, just make them more look more like women. That we're supposed to celebrate the fact that there are women in the military, and then we make them all look like men. That might be offensive to some people, but if you want to celebrate women being in the military, make them look like women. It's very simple. I think it does them a disservice making them all look like men. So question 60, co-op mode, should it be linked to your main PvE character progression? Yes, 66, no preference 23, no 11. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that makes a lot of sense. You play co-op mode, you do all the missions, you unlock all the stuff. That should still, and if you're playing PvE or co-op, that should still unlock the same. It should still save to your save to your Ubisoft account, so that when you play it again later, you haven't lost anything.
Agree. Makes perfect sense. So question 61, co-op mode, what player limit would you like to see in the next game? 4 players was 27%, no preference 21, that shows you a lot of people are not interested, perhaps in certain aspects of this. But 6 players, 17%, 8 players, 16%. And then fifth, we've got 16 players, 11, and the last 12 players, 9. What do you think of that?
Again, I'm actually fairly surprised because co-op modes usually where people talk the most about having, you know, I'd love to have an 8-man team. So I'm quite surprised that again it's went back to 4. It's almost like we want change, but we're too scared to actually vote for it sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if people got not confused by the question, but I suppose it was a similar question to what we asked earlier as such.
Yeah.
Maybe people thought, oh, is this the same question? Or I'm not sure. Question 62, PvP for the next game should be 1. Completely separate DLC with its own dedicated server and dev team, 44%. No preference, 29%. That tells you a lot. 29% of people just don't care because it's PvP. Last integrated with your PvE character and main save slot, 27%. I mean, when it comes down to it, will we even get a PvP? It depends.
Well, I mean,
It all depends on Frontline, because let's say Frontline launches in 2022, which it should, and then let's say the next game launches in 2023, and Frontline is doing really well. It's managed to pull itself out of a hole. You never know; it might be able to. If it does, why would they then bother putting it in there? Because
well,
it's
this
going to
is.
take players away from Frontline, which they're not going to
I
want
suppose.
that to do.
I mean, when the questionnaire was made, when the survey was made, obviously, only a select handful of people knew about Frontline. So that, to me, that answers a lot of questions in it, saying right, because people still far and wide initially wanted a separate PvP. Ironically, until we got a separate PvP, and then everybody hated it. Maybe we're
Yeah,
just too hard to please.
I was in one of those really awkward situations that night that it was shown off, because I was one of a very few people who knew about the game, and had been given an opportunity to play test it, and all of a sudden they said like a new game reveal, and everyone was going crazy like, oh my god, we're getting a new
Yeah.
game, and I was like, oh no. And it wasn't that I necessarily thought that Frontline is bad or anything like that. It wasn't anything to do with that. It was to do with the fact that people so badly want another PvE game. Doesn't matter in a way how good your PvP game is. They could have come out with an amazing PvP game that people played and loved, but they will still want the PvE game
Yeah.
over that any day of the week. So I
100%.
think that caused an issue. But, it's an interesting one, though. Like I said, I think if Frontline does well, then yes. If Frontline fails and dies, I don't know, because they might go, if it fails and dies, they might look at that and go, PvP within this is dead. Let's not
Yeah.
bother, and put more effort. And the people that would have been working on that are working on PvE, and will it be damaging? Don't know. They might just maybe the following year just tag on a small PvP mode,
Yeah.
similar to Wildlands to it.
Yeah. Again, if they if
Perhaps.
they could if they could somehow write in a part of the frontline storyline, something that then leads you on to a PvE, in that interim period. So as you said, if this releases at the end of this year, and then you've got a new PvE game coming next year, it could also be used to bridge that storyline gap, or put Easter eggs in to keep people excited about a new PvE game.
Exactly. So PvPT numbers, question 63. No preference. That makes that tells you a lot. Number one
Yeah,
was no preference. People do not care. A lot of people in this franchise do not care about PvP, and that is not knocking anyone out there that likes it. I played Wildlands PvP and it was fun. Breakpoint PvP, not so much fun, though you can have fun. It's not what I buy the game for. It's not what I play the game for personally.
Exactly.
6v6, 13%. 12v12, 13%, 4v4, 12%, 8v8, 11%. There's not a lot of difference between these options. 6 teams of 4, 5%, and teams of 8, 3%. I think all those others are just much of a muchness. If you're going to do it, give them the options to do all of those, really, would be better, wouldn't it? Just chuck them all in there. Might
But
as well.
here's an interesting thing, though. If you go back 2 questions for co-op mode and stuff like that, people wanted 4 players. But now 4v4 is third because people now want 6v6. So 2 minutes ago, people wanted only 4 players, but now we want 6v6.
Yeah, that's interesting. Maybe just more. I just think a lot less PvP. The no preference being number one told me everything.
Main takeaway.
Told me everything I needed to know, and I was expecting that, to be honest. Which game modes would you like to see? Hostage rescue 16% came first. Team deathmatch 15%, and defuse the bomb 14%. No preference still high again 13%. Territory held after time runs out was 11. Capture the flag 11. Different objectives for each faction was 10, and last man standing was 9. There's not a lot between all of those, and the voting numbers were not as high on those either. And once again, no preference was very high again. Question 65 in PvP, which would you prefer class-wise? No preference, 47%. Once again, that's huge. Individual class system 25, no class system 16, last faction based class system 13%, and those got small voting numbers compared to the no preference. I do think that is. When you look at these kind of things where you've got core groups of the community voting on things like that, it does make you worry about frontline. It really does. Because I just don't think that's what you see in frontline is not what people want to play. They want to play, as we've just seen, rappelling out of helicopters, breaching doors. They want to do that. That's not what frontline's about. I'm not saying you can't have fun on frontline and people won't enjoy it, but I'm not sure the Ghost Recon community overall is going to enjoy it. I don't think, but you never know. That could be completely wrong, and I could eat my words, and I will if I'm wrong, but I won't be. So, question 66: should every faction in the main game be available in PvP? One, yes, 49%. No preference, 46%. No, 5%. The PvP questions,
really telling.
But yes, every faction should probably in the main game should be available in PvP. Why not? If they're there, shove them in. Very simple one. Question 67: PvP maps, DLC launch. Which would you prefer? No preference, 53%. You almost feel like not bothering reading out the other options because it's so telling. Large maps using whole regions from the game, 24%. Small maps using specifics, 16%. Last locations that aren't in the main game at all, 7%. When it comes down to it, if you're going to do it and you're going to do it properly and they're going to really try and make something of it, then do a bit of all of it, I suppose. Question 68. Enemy AI in PvP. Would you like to have enemy AI included for each map in PvP for added difficulty or fun? Now, do you know what? This is one question I'm surprised no preference finished first with 41%. I think if you added enemy AI into PvP, more people would play it. Personally. Or if you created kind of mission type things, a bit like Call of Duty has done on Modern Warfare. Lots of people played those and they were popular. Even though you could class it as a PvP mode, as such, it had enemy AI, stuff like that, and you worked as a random team doing things. So I don't know, I think it could work. Option to turn on off, 32%. yes 20%, no 7%. Like I said, I think yes. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, the problem is it could be done really well, but people are so jaded with the way PvP is being a breakpoint. Some people weren't necessarily happy with how it was in Wildlands either, and I think people are just so jaded that even good ideas, people wonder if Ubisoft could actually pull it off.
Now, question 69 is where did you find this survey? And you can see it right there, just in case you're interested in where it came from. I'm not going to bother reading them out because you can see them. But I'm going to add a question that we weren't aware of at the time that is very relevant and should have this, if the survey was being made now, I'm telling you right now, you would have put this question in there. Do we want, and I'm going to speak, I never like to speak on behalf of the community. It's why we do so many videos asking for your feedback about what you want. You can go back and look at how many videos we've done, loads and loads and loads. Always want to know what you guys want. This is a community-based channel.
Yeah.
But I am going to speak for the community on this question. Probably the one and only time I will ever do it. Question 70 for the next game. Would you like to see NFTs in the next Ghost Recon game?
Oh, I think I know the answer to that.
Number one, no. 100%. Yes, 0%. No preference, 0%.
I think so.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you think that would be roughly where we would be with that question?
I would like to say yes, but the horrible truth is there will be a small section of the fan base in the community who enjoy NFTs and enjoy that unique rareness. And I hate to say that, it makes me feel like dry stick in my mouth, but
I can't. I do not like criticising any part of this community because you should be able to play the game and enjoy it however you want. I cannot, though, get behind NFTs at all. And we're going to be doing a podcast on NFTs where we will be discussing this in a lot more depth. So we're not going to get into it massively now, but I'll let Sandy finish his point and then we will close out the video.
What worried me is I seen a point on Reddit, I saw a post on Reddit a few weeks back, and somebody was offering $100 for somebody to sell them the customized wolf helmet. And to me, that's a bad sign. Even if it's just one person within the community,
that's shocking.
Because that's the type of things that Ubisoft will see, and they'll go,
"It's working. It's working. Yeah. We'll carry on with it." We don't want NFTs. If you're going to create new items, whether it's just new skinned weapons, put them in the shop.
Yeah.
Let all of us buy them. Yeah, I can't be dealing with this scarcity nonsense. There's already enough people that complain that they do not want to play the raid or they don't have the people to play the raid and they can't get a lot of the raid weapons. Yeah. If you are one of those people and you want to play the raid, jump onto our Discord and we'll sort you out some people that will take you through the raid. But, I get why people don't want to play it. I do totally understand that. But there you go. If there are questions that you think, oh, hang on, I've watched both videos, they should have asked this, and they should have asked this, and they should have asked this. If there's all these different questions, if you keep coming up with those questions that we should have asked and we didn't, please put it in the comments down below, and we can always do another one. We are sending these to Ubisoft, so it's not like it's not worth it. It is 100% worth it. So, it could be, even if it's 10, 20 questions, we could put those together, get them out there. They could be really important ones. We're not always going to get everything right all the time. I do think this did a really good job of answering a lot of the core questions that people have been talking about for a long, long time. I want to say a massive thank you for Sandy for putting the survey together. Honestly, bud, really, really appreciate it.
The one thing I sorry for jumping in, Andy. The one thing I would say is to the community itself. Looking at that last question, this truly showed that this wasn't just for the forum, and it wasn't just for Reddit. This was every part of the community. This is a much bigger overarching community trying to tell Ubisoft where they're going wrong. And I just want to say thank you to everybody that took part in this and the other surveys.
Me too, 100%. And for all of our community out there, from the Bullet Catcher community, whether you're interested in the YouTube channel, whether you're on the Discord, whatever, or any supporters that we have, thank you so much for any of you who filled this out. It means a huge amount to both me and Sandy. Thank you. And to everyone else who's not, you're just discovering us for the first time. Hopefully, there'll be more of these type of videos to come where you can get involved. So keep an eye out for those. But thank you so much. From me and Sandy are going to say goodbye. Put any comments that you want to make about these videos down below, and both Sandy and I will be keeping an eye out to answer them for you. Until the next time, take care. We'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.